Hey everybody, my name is Keion Henderson and this is my lovely wife.
Shaunie Henderson.
And welcome to another episode of the Groow Zone. This is so fun. That's what I heard.
I did too. I don't know
DJ
why.
Shaunie Shaunie. You like that?
You didn't need to add the show enough.
I'm going to get a laptop and put DJ Shaunie Shaunie.
Why the show enough? I hate that part. It
I
just
don't know.
made you 83
You always say I'm old.
on the inside.
On the inside, you tell everybody what you call me. What's my nickname on the inside? You remember? Scooter. You always calling me Scooter?
Yeah. I did. Yeah, you are a scooter on the inside.
What does Scooter mean?
Old.
Okay. Well, let me ask you a question.
You have an old soul.
I am a seasoned man of God.
Okay.
Shrouded in the mysteries of Scripture.
Oh, here we go.
All right. Okay. Question for you.
Yes.
How was your week? Dealing with me?
Listen.
How was your week?
I enjoy dealing with you. You are an old soul. You do. If people, and I think people do know that you old on the inside because you say things that like your young Thundercats. Who says that but an older person? You're too young to say some of the things you
There's
say.
some Thundercats out there. It's a lot of
You
them.
could be considered
A
a
Thundercat.
Thundercat, sir. Like, but you're calling other people that. So.
Yeah. Well,
And you also dance and hit your ribs. That's like an old man. Like, it's like you want a belly so bad, but you don't have one. So you have to tap.
so can I tell you, I feel so judged right now.
I'm just.
I mean, my dancing abilities are superb.
Oh.
And where I tap my ribs,
Yes.
just to let you. It's like it's a counter. It's like pop pop. Like I want you to know I'm with you. I got it.
No.
No.
Yeah, you don't need to do that.
Yeah, I'm going to continue because I love it.
You are.
And I love the way you look at me when I do it because I think you're saying you don't want me to do it, but I see such admiration in your eyes when I am doing it.
Got it. It's kind of like the vibrato that I use when I sing to you. That's
Yeah.
that's the
Let's
same
not-
thing I
let's-
feel.
Let's not do that.
when
Okay,
I
I'll
do-
stop dancing then because if that's the trade off, I won't dance ever
You
again.
don't love my singing with the extra vibrato. That is, see, what I say to my husband is when I add the vibrato, it's an unnecessary vibrato that I am adding. That is me sharing my love. Because
I
like
want
the
your love, baby.
vibrato
So
trembles,
keep-
right?
keep-
It shakes. So you shake me so much that
Yeah.
when I sing, all this vibrato comes out. And I think if it doesn't have vibrato, it's just not real love.
all right, well, I'm gonna move into the subject, but I do have one question. It ain't vibrato. I didn't know. It's vibrato.
Vibrato? It's an O at the end.
Whew,
Am I
you
saying
had me scared.
vibrato? I was saying vibrato.
Because I was going to say that I am very much out of line.
Oh, no. You just corrected my English. I was being blackity black.
Well, let's talk about black people for a second.
Yeah.
Like, can we talk about, because obviously on set right now, we can say black comes in different shades.
It does, doesn't it?
See, I'm not being funny, babe. See,
Doesn't
y'all,
it?
what she basically trying to say is I'm taking a shot at her being light-skinned, and I am not.
Oh,
I am not. I am
Okay.
talking about the diversity and the diversification of the African-American experience and how we can be dark and brown and caramel and light and all of those
yes,
things.
we can.
But no matter what color the skin is,
Uh-huh.
we are good or should be good at disciplining our children.
Okay. I don't know where you were going with
Do
that.
you agree with
sentence.
that?
I absolutely agree.
So today, let's talk about basically, and we're talking about, can we just keep it real? Because we black,
we are.
and every once in a while, we got to be able to admit that without being ostracized, right?
Correct.
And today, because nobody has the experiences like we have them, I want to know from you and our audience, and let's have this open conversation. Isn't it a mindset like, if we don't discipline them, the system is?
Right. That's very true and very scary. But does that just go for black folks?
I don't know if it just go for black folks, but I do know it go for black
It
folks.
definitely goes for black
Yeah,
folks.
I don't know if it
We can't
just
speak
goes.
for nobody else.
I ain't speaking for nobody else, but I know who I can
Right.
speak for.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about one of my my earliest experiences, babe. So I was in college, okay, and my college roommate at the time, because I went to a 4-year university, it was a Division I. I'm coming in as a
You
freshman.
saw how he had to mention that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, first of all, we got this
D1.
whole conversation in the house. She's jealous because she's not athletic. Let me tell y'all something before we get going. And this is a true story. My wife swears she's athletic.
I am.
Okay, you hear her? And for those of y'all who can't see
That's
us,
why
you
the
can hear
thunder's
us.
happening. That's why the thunder's happening.
It's okay. It's raining outside.
Don't want him lying.
But we're going to have another podcast in the Groow Zone, and I'm going to bring in 5 witnesses that are going to prove what I'm saying is true. So my wife, in her blackness, says that she's athletic.
I am.
She asked me if I thought she was athletic. I said, absolutely not. She goes on to tell me some of the athletic things that she does, like cartwheels. And I'm saying, okay, possible. Well, let's just call the children and ask them, are you athletic? We called all 5. All 5 of them said, Mom, no, you're not athletic. You've never done anything athletic in your life. So somehow she thinks we're all wrong.
First of all, they don't know my life.
You called me. You told me to call them for verification.
Just saying.
You had bad character witnesses. You told me to call them.
They're all haters.
Okay.
You guys are all haters with this athleticism. But anywho.
Okay, so can we just talk about the children just for a second? You got 3 sons.
I do.
Are you like afraid in this world of how the system views your boys?
Oh, God, yes.
What makes you most afraid?
I would say the police scare me to death. Because you can't get away from them, right? And just nowadays it's hard to say because I think I'm fearing for my girls just as much as I am my boys because it doesn't matter anymore. Of course, Black men are way more targeted, but I do absolutely worry about them all. But police scare me to death.
Let me tell you, this is a true story, and it just happened. As of we're recording this, as the day we're recording this, it happened about 8 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
So in one of our businesses, we employ police officers to watch over the premises. And one of the police officers had a run-in with one of the executives at the company.
Mm-hmm.
The executive emails and text messages me his complaint about the run-in. Fortunately, 2 of the staff members witnessed the run-in. So the employee's perspective about what happened was that the police officer was disrespectful. The police officer hems up one of our staff members in the office, and the staff member says to him, if you don't get your hands off of me, it's going to be a problem. Now, fast forward, when the senior officer on deck went to go confront the officer, his response was, you need to get your facts right. I'm sanctioned by the state of Texas to put my hands on anybody I want to put my hands on.
Listen.
And I fired him that day because anybody who has that perspective as it relates to protection, I get it. But now you're talking about something that wasn't even close to being a part of the professional environment. It was a personal vendetta. And see, I think that this is when policing becomes dangerous because when authority meets vendetta, you have a problem. Now let's just go back.
And they abuse that.
Some of them do.
Yeah.
Now let us go on record that we understand that not all police are bad.
Absolutely.
Let us go on record. We have police friends. We respect law enforcement. We respect first responders when they're doing their job. The same way you would respect a lawyer that's doing his job, the same way you would respect a doctor who's doing his or her job. And when that person steps out of the line of the job, then they should be held to account.
Right.
It is so frightening in these days and times to see the tumultuous relationship with, let's just be specific, with Black and brown men and women and people who wear blue. It's frightening. I mean,
absolutely.
To hear him say that, I thought, if you would say that to somebody who is paying you, what would you say if nobody was watching? Right?
That part.
So isn't it true that we are told that the original purpose of policing was instituted in the days of slavery, where slave masters would enact the services of bounty men and constables who would then bring the slave back to the master. That's the culture where policing originates from. I would challenge people, and not in every city, not in every state, but culturally, holistically, countrywide, maybe even worldwide. We haven't moved away from a society as it relates to policing holistically from its original origin. Capture the person who looks suspicious and bring him back to be accounted for without facts, without proof, just off of suspicion. And in those days and time, the color of skin. That's how you identify it. You black, you must be running. You're running away. And so it brings us into the position where we, as black people, have to call, or we have what we call the talk.
Yeah.
Right. You got black boys. What is that talk?
The talk is how to conduct themselves in public, where to go, where to avoid, when driving and getting pulled over, how to conduct themselves, never talk back, do exactly what they say. And the scary part about that is you give them all these instructions, suggestions, and it's a possibility none of that even matters. None of it. You know, the 10 and 2 and ask, can I get my wallet out of my pocket? All of that might not matter, which is, you know, that's just so scary to me. But again, it goes back to disciplining them at home to try to avoid them being in situations with nowadays, what is a situation? But to be in situations that aren't compromising, that aren't, you know, just being smart enough to not put yourself in a position to be in a dangerous space. So, you know, it's hard because like you say, times are changing. And I sometimes feel like those conversations with my boys, in the midst of saying it out loud and hearing myself talk to them about it, I'm thinking, dang, I'm saying all of this and
it still might not be enough.
Yeah,
and I hate that you have to live in that fear, and I live in that fear with you. On the opposite side of it, like the only mitigation we have is to say, listen, if we don't discipline them, the system will.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure to the best of our ability, and no parent, you could have two children. One could be Cain, one can be Abel. You didn't get to decide who would be obedient, who would be rebellious, but to the best of your ability, it's like raising them to say, listen, this is how you conduct yourself as a last name. This is what it means to be a da 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 da. You know, you don't answer to this. You don't be attracted to that. And just being repetitious. You always use the word consistency, letting the boys know you don't have to prove anything to anybody at any time. And it's okay to walk away from a conflict. And because he who is alive is the winner, not the one that spoke up. So disciplining our children so that the system in all of its fallacies doesn't feel like it has to. What can we do? Like in the Groow zone, what can we offer our parents? Like, are we supposed to still be whooping our children? What, you know, that's something we grew up on. What are the things? And I'm just brainstorming, like, what should we be doing to keep our boys safe and our girls safe?
I mean, I didn't have to whoop my kids. Like, I think 3 of my kids might have received a whooping, and it wasn't the kind of whooping that we probably like getting switches and all that kind of stuff. Is I didn't do all of that. My kids would get popped now. I would do that. But I don't know what's society says no more whooping kids. I think I turned out all right, and I might have got 2 whoopings my whole life. But it goes back to when we talked about having a healthy fear. Like it, to me, needs to be a fear of something. If it's whooping in your house, I don't believe in beating kids and all that. It's unnecessary. But if you instill some type of fear that there is a repercussion to your misbehavior, to your not, you not listening to me, you being disrespectful, whatever that thing is, I do believe it needs to be something. It needs to be some type of, I don't know if you want to call it punishment, or just like I said, some type of repercussion to you being disrespectful or whatever.
I think the punishment should meet the crime, and I think the punishment needs to be tailored towards the child. Because why would you whip a child who understands words?
Right.
And why would you be using words for a child who doesn't have a respect for them? I think you have to find out what works for that child, which may be frustrating because you're going to have to use a multiplicity of different avenues. But if you're consistently at it, you'll eventually, hopefully, find the thing that works. And if nothing works, at least you know you did your best, right? Because here's the thing about raising a child. They eventually going to be an adult, and then they're going to be responsible for their own consequences. So the goal of parenting is, listen, because you are young enough now where your consequences could potentially be mine, I'm going to try to mitigate some of this because these are consequences I don't want to pay for right now.
Right.
When you become an adult, hey, I have established and built a trust that everything that I taught you, you will enact
Yeah.
and reciprocate
And the
in your own action.
kid could have that trust for you as the parent. Like, wow, you know, my mom, my dad did all of that for me. For example, my dad was so strict. I hated it growing up, right? He was just no dating, no this. I couldn't go to the school dances. I couldn't do anything that involved boys. And I guess because of who he was, you know, he just had girlfriends and he just didn't want me to be hurt. So he was overprotective and I didn't get to do much. But in the long run, I'm kind of thankful because like I said, there's nobody that can say they did this, that, and the other with me, or they got proof of X, Y, and Z on me. None of that happened because my dad was so protective. So it was like I saw what he was doing and why. Now, was it a little excessive? Maybe so. But I trusted him, like, with everything. I knew he had my front, back, and sides. I had that trust in him, and now as an adult, I can see what his disciplining was supposed to be, I guess, you know, what he was trying to protect me from. So, you know, that love and appreciate, you eventually get there. It might not seem like all of us parents got it together and all our rules make a whole lot of sense, but we have a purpose. We have a reason. We're doing it for, and maybe having that conversation with your kid could help that. Like, I'm not just telling you this just because it's fun. Like, give them examples. Give them, as they say in the church, a testimony of how it helped you. You know, sometimes that communication, we have to really communicate with our kids way more than our parents did with us.
Yeah, I think that if the child doesn't think the parenting isn't excessive, you haven't done it right. Somewhere along the line, they should be uncomfortable with the choices that you have to make for them or some of the rules and the boundaries that you set up for them. And if they are comfortable with every decision you make for them, you're not doing it right.
Ain't no boundaries if they comfortable.
There are no boundaries.
Right.
You just, because there ought to be some like, oh, mama, you are strict. Well, I'm strict because I know the consequences that you'll have to pay if you do this. You don't know yet.
Right.
So until you know, I've got to put these boundaries in place. Otherwise, you know, you're going to do what you want to do. I was telling you in the beginning, one of my first encounters with a policeman as a black man, and this is God's honest truth. I was a freshman in college. And as I was stating, I had a roommate. He was a senior, but not just a senior. He was a fifth or sixth year senior. You know, one of those seniors that was a senior before they was a senior and stayed a senior.
Kind of like how those in college now. They
COVID year
they 33.
senior. Exactly.
Yeah.
So this guy was 24 when I showed up at 17.
Oh.
And he used to try to bully me and D'Angelo Woodall, who was my roommate at the time. He tried to bully us and all that because he was big and strong. But we would all team up. Like, we'll jump you.
Yeah.
Now, you can
Can't
beat
fight
one of us.
one-on-one.
But both of us, we're going to come for you. And he was dating a young lady. And that girl would be in our apartment, eating our food out of the refrigerator. Now, you understand, we broke. One of my mama on welfare and at Taco Bell, D mama's on welfare. And I'm thinking maybe unemployed. And here he is running up the phone bill. Because at that time, if you call long distance, it cost. So we would have $300 and $400 phone bills. The girl would be eating the food out of the refrigerator, laying in the living room when we get home from basketball practice. And I remember one day saying to my roommate, the older one, like, man, get this girl out of our apartment. We don't want to keep seeing her here. Going on and on. I get a phone call on my cellular phone. I had a Nokia 5120. I used to work at Centennial Wireless. You remember that? You used to pull an antenna up on the phone. Had that cell phone. Get a call. It's a police officer. Police officer says, can I speak to Keion Henderson? I said, this is him. He said, I have just been informed that you have verbally harassed and abused my niece. And I'm coming to the house to arrest you. This is what he's saying. Now, he's not coming, but I started to realize she was a white lady. I was a black male. And she was able to tell him that I did something with no proof. And his
himself
called me and threatened to come and arrest me at her word. And it was at that moment that my relationship with the criminal justice system started to further crumble underneath my feet. Because now I had a context. I'd always heard about racism, but I lived in Gary, Indiana. Everybody was black.
Yeah.
So I knew the world was racist, but I didn't.
I'd
never experienced it. When I got to college and started to experience it and had a police officer literally tell me he was going to detain me at the word of what a Caucasian woman told him I did without ever interviewing me, my relationship with it crumbled. And now when I hear black men say, the police did this, the police did that, I believe it.
Right.
I believe it because I've seen it multiple times. I've been pulled over.
Yeah.
Because I remember one time being pulled over for 54 in the 50. Was I speeding? Obviously, 4 miles per hour over. And I got a ticket. And I had to go to court. And then the judge said, why are you here? And he dismisses it. But in that moment, I had no authority. So if we don't discipline, the system will. If my mama didn't teach me a healthy fear of how to respect a police officer and not to use profane words and to be respectful, who knows what the outcome would have been.
Right.
So I believe that we have to discipline our children, our black children, so that the system doesn't eat them up and spit them out. Because once they come out of the system, the system,
yeah,
it is hard for them to fit in any other system.
That's good.
Right? So once I come out of the criminal justice system, the banking system don't want me. Once I come out of the criminal justice system, even the parenting system doesn't want me. Now I got to have supervised visits once I come out of that system. You see? So that one system, that one criminal justice system, as it relates to black men, locks us out of all of the other systems. That's why we got to fight like hell to keep our boys and girls out of that system.
Yeah. But do you also agree, though, that there's no correct conversation? There's many conversations that could be helpful, but would you say there is something that all of our kids need to be equipped with that will keep them safe?
Yeah, obviously trusting the Lord with all your heart.
Yeah.
You know, he won't fail us. You gotta have trust in the divine protector, because if it ain't for God, what can me and you do? We don't know where any of the children are at this moment, except for the ones at school, but we don't even know what part of the school they're in. So God, respect, honor, discipline. And then after I say all of that, nope.
Right.
Nope. Because how many dead, proper, educated, obedient African-American boys were buried in cemeteries whose mama told them to stay at 10 and 2, and they were reaching for a hairbrush, and they're gone.
Right.
So yes. And then after I say yes, no.
That is so true. But at the same time, how do we give them these instructions without instilling fear in them as well? Because for me, I always say, like, I sleep with one eye open. That's just, even when it comes to my kids, I worry with my eyes closed, when I'm asleep at night. But how do you not instill that fear on them? Because I don't want them to feel paranoid. I want them to be aware. I want them to keep their head on a swivel. I want all of that without you living in fear, because I do want you to be, I want you to experience the best in life, Black excellence, and just enjoying life in general without being scared, even though I know as a parent I'm terrified.
Yeah, because I think if you're asking me, I think that teaching them the difference between being scared and having fear, right? I'm not scared of fire, but I have a fear for it. I'm not scared of water, but I have a fear for it. So I think teaching them to respect it like they do water. And don't go out there too far.
Right.
Don't go where it's deep without an out. Don't let your mouth, here's what my mama say, don't let your mouth write a check that your butt can't cash. So having a healthy respect and fear Because when our children have respect and fear, it gives us something to fight.
Yeah.
If they are disrespectful and they have no fear and they are in deep waters and they have exercised no restraint, then the police officer or whomever is going to say they had just cause. So I think teaching our children an innate level of respect gives us a place. God forbid that they don't come home, but if they come home alive, then we'll die trying to keep them alive.
Yeah.
Because if you leave the adversary with their dignity, then I can go to the end of the world for you. It is only when they feel like they have just cause to do to you what they did that you leave me no out. So do we just teach them? And I don't know, babe, do we just teach them, just be as honorable and respectful as you can and let them know it's my job to fend for you. And if you leave me in a position where they have their dignity, I don't care who I have to hire. I don't care what relationship I have to leverage. I don't care what I got to Google. Daddy and mama's coming because you did out of the house what we taught you to do in this house. And if they disrespect those rules, then we get involved.
That's good.
I remember one time I was in your car, as I'm often am, driving your car, and I took the boys to basketball practice, and they wanted me to take them to a smoothie place to get some protein afterwards. So we're coming down I-10, and they roll the windows down in the car. They turn the music up. They ain't got no shirts on, and they waving their T-shirt out the window. And I became a black man right away. Roll them windows up. Put your shirt on. Get your feet. I mean, I had them sitting like this all the way home. And they eventually was like, yo, what's up, Kay? That's what they call me.
Yeah.
Yo, what's up? I'm like, do y'all not understand where we are? Sharif was like, yeah, in y'all neighborhood. It's nice over here. I said, exactly. Exactly. Because the nicer it is, the more out of place you look. Because when a white kid has, and Sharif is tatted from earlobe to pinky toe.
Yeah.
And when a white kid has those tattoos on, it's viewed as art. It's expression. When a black kid has it on, it's a thug. And then you left asking your question, well, should I tell my kids not to get tattoos because of people's perception? I mean, it is so hard to be black.
Right. It's so many complications with it all, because you're absolutely right. And then you take into the, like, they don't even think like that because we've lived in California, right? You lived in LA, and you can have the black kid that is fully tatted and could be a skateboarder, or, like he's just like a hippie kid, or he is an artist. Here in Texas, the tatted black kid means possibly gangbanging and all, and it could mean that in LA, but it's understanding all of that part too. Like, why do we have to know all those different rules? Oh, if you're in Texas, baby, they don't see you like that. You go to so-and-so, they might see you. It just depends on what side of the neighborhood you're. It's just so many rules and so many levels and layers to being black.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And if we knew the answer to blackness, somebody would have already spoken it.
Right.
The truth is, when we adjust over here, the rules get changed.
Right.
Okay, they tell us to vote, and then we go vote, and then they change the district. I mean, it's just hard.
It is
to be black, but I just don't think that we should give up trying to be excellent.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's hard, but there is a day, and it's coming, and it may not be in our generation. We may not see it, but there's a day that the work that we're doing will eventually level the playing field as such that if God delays his coming, that our children will one day be judged by the character that they have and not the skin color that they have.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet.
No. And we just need to consistently upgrade. We have to constantly upgrade. Like, we're talking about the conversations that we have to have with our boys. That's not the conversation that my parents had to have with me. So it's a constant upgrade.
Upgrading of the software of parenting.
Yep.
Just, getting another version of doing the same thing.
Well, we talked a lot about parenting boys, but parenting Black girls. So as Black women, we are just outdoing all the other races. You know, we have the most masters, PhDs. We are just excelling at a level that no one is coming close to. So we also fight the fact that society makes Black women angry, loud, aggressive, all of those things. We're combative. We're, you know, all of those things, despite we're killing it out here in the game. How do we equip young girls to still feel empowered to achieve everything that we're achieving, but fighting that
The stigma.
stereotype of, and I mean, there are some angry, loud, aggressive. We got a lot to be angry, loud, and aggressive about.
Yeah.
But how do you still instill that, be strong, you know, fight for what's right, do all those things and meet your Black excellence at the level that you could never imagine, all while still living under this cloud of negativity?
I think that having conversations like this, where Black women lead the charge, unfortunately, you're going to have to explain yourselves, because remember, you are a species that's performing differently than any other time in history. And so men are observing you evolve in front of our face, and we're not used to seeing you do what you do. Okay, so now look at it from the other side, because men are always in the workforce and working. And as men are staying at home more, what kind of stigmatisms go with that? Or you don't work, man that don't work, don't eat. We're seeing you perform in ways we never have.
Yeah.
We got to have conversations. And I think that, and let's talk about this, because I think that what happens, I saw a woman say this online. She says, I ran my husband away because I got stronger, I got more successful, and then I went home and tried to boss him. So let's talk about, do you feel like that as women matriculate and go higher, are they still able to maintain that balance when they come home, or when they come through the door, do they still assume the role of CEO?
Well, I think that's the conversation, because you're starting with, you know, parenting your daughters and instilling in them what is needed long term, right? So I think it's absolutely what you said about conversations and how that evolves, because what we instill in them is going to be very helpful for that future. So if it is about marriage or a relationship at some point and how to balance that, then that is a conversation that we would have. But I would first start with, how do I empower you?
Just the girl.
Just the girls, because we talked about the boys a lot. So just the girls. How do I empower you to be the best version of you can be? Education, career, all those, reach the highest heights, while
that stigma
of you're going to be accused of being angry, aggressive, loud, combative, you know, all of those things that a Black woman is constantly being
I think you just hit it
described.
on the head, because when you went after your dreams, your mother didn't tell you what you were going to be perceived as, because she didn't go after what you went after.
Right.
But because you went after it, you now get to tell your girls what to expect. Back to conversations. Baby, go after every single thing you want to go after. And let me tell you what they're going to say about you along the way. They're going to say this, they're going to say this, they're going to say that, they're going to say that. Now, let me tell you what that means. And just having a conversation with her, helping her to define herself so she won't respond to what she's called.
Right.
So she knows who she is.
She knows her name.
She knows her name.
Yeah.
Your name is Shaunie.
Yeah.
You're a producer. Then the other thing I would say is help the girls to separate. And this is what men fail to do. Separate who you are from what you do.
Right.
I am not what I do. Because after I finish talking about the girls, after you finish getting all of the men in order at the conference table, and after you finish setting precedent, then you can go right back and walk into your femininity. Just knowing what to turn on, what to turn off, what to use, when to use it. And I think that they'll be more equipped because you kicked that door in. And that's why for mothers who are watching, they may say, well, Shaunie, I didn't accomplish what you accomplish. That's why the Groow Zone has to expand
Yeah.
to showing and having symposiums and having conferences, because every once in a while a few of us get a chance to peek through that door, and then it's our responsibility to help as many people to
Get
come
in.
in behind us. So we have to be surrogates for people, and you do.
Yeah,
It's
for
a lot of
sure.
responsibility,
I
but
love that,
you have
babe.
to.
I love that. I think that's a good ending here. We're
Yeah.
gonna expand and have, I don't know, what do you call them when you have
Like
not levels, but cohort?
cohorts and
Yeah.
different things that we can do in the Groow Zone. People can be a part of, not just a podcast, but a conference, a conversation, a
Yeah.
pop-up, mentorship. There are a lot of things that can happen in the Groow Zone, and I think that your experience, especially, I think you asked a great question when it comes to the girls. So everybody's trying to figure out how to keep the boys alive, but it's way more young ladies out there
Yeah.
than there are boys, and how do we keep them safe as well?
Yeah. Well, that is our episode for
is it.
today. That was
Yes.
good.
That was good.
It's got my mind going of like ventures off of the Groow Zone that just have specific needs and specific concerns. I think that's absolutely good. So we hope that you grew today, because that's the point.
Yes.
In the Groow Zone, we are trying to do as much growing as possible, because growing is an inside job. My genius husband came up with that.
And you
Say
just
bye
put
to
it
the
in real
people.
good. Everybody have a great day. You ended that thing so
Hi, high
well.
five.
High five.
See
Listen.
y'all next time.
See y'all next time.